Welcome back. Ron Nelson, Nelson Commercial Real Estate Property in the building. We were just talking that neither one of us made the prayer breakfast. A bunch of other folks had said they normally go to the Austin. They didn't get there, but we'll do our own praying this morning.
I guess so, yeah. I got to follow these Osteds. Being an old-school radio guy, I still use headphones just in my DNA. And these Osteds, what is it with them and tangled up cords? I mean, I'm sitting here untangling cords for 5 minutes.
They were twisting them like girls in their hair, but it made a difference. You want to talk about office space this morning as a key indicator. Tell us about that.
Well, we talk certainly a lot about retail. The big box has been a focus in retail, for the last year or so with closings of big boxes, being Sears, Yonkers, Kmart's, Shopko's, big box, retail. That's been in the news. Certainly e-commerce and all of that has dominated the news cycle in that. But in office space, we have another term that we talk about also, which is big blocks. Big blocks of office space. And, I don't know if you'd call it an indicator of an economy. I mean, certainly if you're a landlord, you really don't want big blocks of office space available in your building. But at the same time, in a economic development mode, there are cities or companies, I should say, that look at cities and they need big blocks of space to come there for whatever reason, not ready or willing to build, a facility. So, I mean, if you don't have 60+ thousand square feet of contiguous available office space, you will be passed upon on, your city. And so, that does become an important thing, much like the Development Foundation's reason for their existence. Available land is certainly important on the industrial sector. A large available building, too, is, same situation, on the industrial side. But, if you don't have big blocks of space, be it office, be it industrial, there are certain companies that won't look at your city. And so the good news is, if you want to call it that, we have them. We have some big blocks of office space. We've certainly, been watching the progress of the new Citibank facility in kind of what a lot call the Golden Triangle in that I-229-29 area. Well, but Citibank is moving out of somewhere to move into their new facilities. And so, they will have the biggest block of space available. Avera has taken part of theirs that they've been transitioning out of, but there's going to be a couple 100,000 square feet of office space on that Citibank campus once they're fully moved out. And so, a big block of space that you don't like to see, again, as a landlord, but certainly as an economic development, wearing our economic development hats, it can be something that can have some fun and exciting outcomes for Sioux Falls.
He's Ron Nelson, Nelson Commercial Real Estate Property. How do they find you?
Nelson Commercial Real Estate, or on the web, N Commercial for short. So www.ncommercial.com.
We're going to mention Jeff Eckhoff, but we're going to mention, too, the talks this week for a new I-29 interchange, 85th, with what he did in Lincoln County and Minnehaha County, kind of a reference to all that he's already done. Now he's got a different position.
Yeah, he does, and I think a lot of us could have said, wow, didn't see that one coming, but excited about it. I don't think you could find anybody that knows Jeff that would have a bad thing to say about the guy. I don't think he has a mean bone in his body, but certainly got well-credentialed background. And like you were talking earlier with Jody and Jesse, I think just very well received by the development community. It's kind of scary because that's a very important position that kind of maps and charters out the future direction of our city and our growth. And, I go back to the Steve Metley days and, still feel the stinging sometimes of things he wouldn't let us do, that position controls. And yet, I would joke with Metley, sometimes because you get ticked off, when you get a deal canceled or whatever.
You get ticked
we
off?
We all do. I mean, it's frustrating. We think we're out there trying to bring good things to the city, and they don't necessarily share our vision. But, in the end, in the big picture, they're right. and they, generally, those words might haunt me in the future. But no, it's a well-respected position. So when it becomes vacant, or going to be vacant, we're worried. It's like, oh my gosh, this could not be, a good outcome depending on who is selected. And so I think it was a collective breath of fresh air and sigh of relief at the same time when Jeff was named, as well as excitement. Exciting for him and just exciting for the future of our city.
You started the clock running last week on a trip to Vegas. What you do every year, it's not exactly a sign of spring when you go to Vegas, but it is one of the biggest shows that we'll talk about on the commercial side.
Yeah, kind of our annual pilgrimage, late May. So, we're right at, what's today, the 9th? Yeah, a month from today, I'm on a plane to start the convention in Vegas. It runs from Sunday to Wednesday in Vegas, always the week before Memorial Day weekend. So that's coming up, and certainly lots of things, back to the whole big box discussion that we were referring to earlier. Huge topic going to be out there in Vegas, kind of the whole reuse thing. Article this week in one of the trade magazines is that churches are becoming the new darling of malls, and can fill up big blocks of space. Obviously, they are an event-specific type of use, Sundays, Wednesdays, things like that, or when you get the bulk of the traffic. But, for a mall, what is a mall looking to largely do? Generate foot traffic. Well, and when is usually a pretty good day to shop at the mall? Sundays. So, there's a lot of good things that can happen, just by a church, occupying space in your mall. And, our company, we do a lot of churches. And I think, 6 months ago, we even had a guest on our program of a church that we did for the group called Oak Hills. I'm going to get the name wrong, and that's why they're changing it. But they're the group that bought the Sioux Falls Lutheran School, and they're having their little throw-out plug for them. I think it's next weekend, changing it to I'm going to get that wrong, too. It's got the name oak in it, but, kind of the growing of an oak tree is sort of what they're basing their shorter name on. But the bottom line is churches are growing in our religious community and certainly on a national level, filling some big box spaces in malls. And so that will be one of many topics covered in Vegas at the Recon event in a month.
Jody, earlier we talked about her story this week about a beer warehouse moved from Nebraska to become a Lutheran church here in Sioux Falls.
Yeah. We love that stuff. And, I did actually haven't talked about it much, but I go to First Baptist Church, and we just bought land for our church, and we looked at the vacant Kmarts. And in the past, this has been an odyssey for us for quite a while. They used to call it the Randall's Building. It's now where Pizza Ranch is, but our church looked at that building. Our church looked at Sportsman's Warehouse, which is where Home Furniture is now. So those big blocks of space are attractive things for churches. They got big parking lots, a lot of time, as well as, just wide open space. So, a beer warehouse, same thing. A lot of times they'd probably be a little light on parking, have to add a little parking perhaps. But, yeah, absolutely. Great reuse.
Let's talk about Vegas for a second. And you'll be talking a little bit about Sioux Falls. You've talked about Fargo in the past because you're talking like cities in the Midwest to people nationwide. What are you going to tell them about Sioux Falls? What's different a year from the last time that you were out there to where you're out there? What is going to be your pitch about why come to Sioux Falls? On
a light note, we are not now the lowest unemployment city in the region. I just recently saw that Lincoln was actually 0.1% lower unemployment than Sioux Falls. So, sometimes traditionally you brag about those statistics as, that's the bellwether of your economy, your unemployment rate. Now the tables have turned the last few years, and, there's people that won't come to our town because of our extremely low unemployment rate. So kind of with my tongue in my cheek answering your question there. But seriously, available workforce is a big deal. Probably more for those big blocks of office that we were talking about earlier. But like I said, restaurants, groups like that, we've got people that are interested in our town that have said in the past, we're not coming until your unemployment rate creeps up a little bit, which again is kind of counterintuitive.
We're higher than Lincoln.
Yeah, so that's one thing that we'll again tongue in cheek talk and laugh about a little bit in Vegas. But just the metrics in general of our city are just astounding. Everything we do, everything we touch, specifically on a retail level, is generally successful. And not to make certain businesses feel bad that are struggling or whatever, but a lot of people just say, if you can't make it in this town, you can't make it anywhere. And we just have a healthy and vibrant business community. And of course, everybody says that. Every city says that. So when you're going to Vegas and literally talking to folks that 15 cities that day, we'll be talking to them, what can you do to set yourself apart? We talk, and, you've heard me in the past talk about how I bring retailers to the falls. They physically look at the falls because the stuff all becomes a blur to these guys, when they get back home. And it's like, I was in Cedar Rapids and Sioux Falls and Des Moines, and which is which? We looked at this. Was that, which town was that in? The something about the falls, always gives an anchor for our town. Not that they're going to come to our city because of the falls, but it gives us something to distinguish, from other cities. And then they'll remember, that's where Ron took us down Phillips Avenue and that amazing downtown that they've got going on, and all the building that's going on, and the Levitt and the Cascades and things like that. So, we'll talk about our downtown a lot, and in as much as you're not pitching, so to speak, the national retailers to locate downtown, yes, some, and we'll see a few more, but all of them know that the sign of a healthy city is oftentimes dictated by the sign of a healthy downtown. And so if your downtown is healthy, you got a good city. And so that helps us.
I'm going to change gears with you and see how ready you are for this one. And that deals with the Ark that's coming in, because you and I, that's one of the first things that we talked about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The Ark was coming. It was part of the Rotary Club. Where are we with that? I understand that we're getting closer to something.
What I know from watching, KELO News, they're looking like they're getting ready to start. I'm thinking it's going to look like one of those windmill blades being transferred down the interstate, carrying this thing down the interstate. But it's my understanding that it's in state now. I think they've moved it from where they fabricated it in Colorado to, is it Custer or Spearfish or something like that it is now. So we'll be seeing it coming down the interstate, hopefully sooner rather than later. I believe the foundational infrastructures and things like that look like they're set up. So I'll leave this to Jim Clark to give more specific
And we're
details.
coming to the Sculpture Walk time right now, which is always around the 1st of May. So that's the reason they brought the Ark up again.
But it's to kind of your bigger point about Vegas and just Sioux Falls in general. That is going to be another thing that will distinguish us, and set us apart. And they're talking, in the Ark discussions about, you'll be able to see it from the falls. So, it's going to be kind of an anchor type thing that, in addition to people coming to our downtown to see the falls, the Ark is going to be on that short checklist of things that they're going to want to see. And they will remember our town because of the Ark, because, you do a lot of traveling, I do a lot of traveling, and try to check out the unique things about cities at least when I'm in towns. I like to do more than just the business at hand. I like to see what the city's about, and certainly I'd check out the Ark in a town like ours, and so it's going to be something that is very unusual, very unique, and something we'll be noted for in the future for generations to come.
Ron, how do they find you?
Again, Nelson Commercial Real Estate or www.ncommercial.com.
All right, we're ready to throw out the first pitch. Willie Alfonso, chaplain of the Yankees, is here. He's got some good boy, bad boy stories.